podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to Howie the Podcast. It's Gav and you join us for our match day preview news just chatting shite pod as we are here today. A look ahead to both of the games this weekend. I know I promised on the last one we would do that, and then we just ended up down a rabbit hole with Dom Shaw from the Northern Echo, and we never actually mentioned the games, which is quite good because it means I've got something to talk about today. So this weekend Sunderland are playing firstly this afternoon against FC Augsburg over in Germany, and then on Sunday afternoon at Stadium of Light we play Rayo Vallecano. The last two games of pre-season before we warm up for that season opener against West Ham United next Saturday in the Premier League. We are finally back next week, but we won't get too carried away talking about that. Do still have two games to talk about, and a little bit of news which was broken on Friday, which we should probably mention. So first off, I am joined by Ant Watson, a celebrity in our midst, as he's been all over the TV this last week or so. Hello, Ant.
I've been inundated with Twitter followers and all, so madness.
Yep.
But yes, all good, man.
Been on PL Stories this week, haven't you? Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about that and what it was? Because I imagine it'll be probably broadcast for a little while yet, up until the season starts.
Yeah, so obviously recorded last month with PL Stories. They did like a thing of Sunderland getting, obviously, the Black Cats returning to the Premier League and stuff. So that kind of like went from the Premier League days under Reedy and Super Kev and all that. He was on, Super Kev was on the documentary. And then obviously about the kind of downsides of our club, the way we've just dropped like a stone. I think a few ex-players got interviewed, like Cattermole and that. And then they did a bit with the current team. So, and then I was mentioned as a fan that I could go obviously through Roker Report, was approached, and I was the lucky one who got to do that and got my face on the telly. So yeah, like I said, I'm after hiring an agent, Gav, I think. The way it's going, so never mind. But it was class to watch. I thought it was a very well made film, to be fair.
I watched it on YouTube using a VPN, because for some reason it's only available to Americans on YouTube, but it'll probably appear on an English YouTube channel at some point. But it's been on Sky, BT, etc., hasn't it? So
it's on Sky and TNT Sports, yeah.
Yeah, I said BT, Jesus. TNT, yes. Yeah, TNT, don't come for us. And also today we are joined by Andrew Smithson once again. Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm excellent, thanks, Gavin. Just pleased to be sharing a platform with Roper Report's star name, Ant. I've not had a chance to see the program yet, but I've heard all about it, and it's quite awe-inspiring looking at him on the screen now.
It's he's taking some of the spotlight away from Johnny. Johnny's going to have to appear on something next, isn't he? Just to try and recoup that.
Johnny will be hosting Match of the Day next season.
Yeah. Right. So before we get into the games, because that was the chief reason we were jumping on today to preview the matches, there was news that broke on Friday that we have once again signed a player. We got a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. To be fair, I think the first hint of that news was broken by Turkish journalists. And normally when I see a Turkish journalist reporting something on Sunderland, I immediately dismiss it because it's normally bollocks. It generally is. That's just been the case for years and years. A lot of clickbait comes out of Turkey, so you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt. But the reason it came out of Turkey was because this player has just spent a good 3 seasons with Besiktas, and the player we're talking about, of course, is Arthur Masuaku, who previously had 7 years with West Ham. He is a left-back stroke left wing-back who likes to get forward. 31-year-old Congo international. So, of course, we have added to our African contingent another player who will be missing. We'll have no left-backs apart from Dennis Serkin in the winter months. But he is, of course, signing a 2-year deal with us, apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano. Medical on Friday. A free agent because he left Besiktas at the end of June. And someone who I think is probably just going to be coming in to be backup, but experience in the Premier League, like I said, had 7 years with West Ham, played a total of 128 games. Previously to that, had 3 years in Olympiakos in Greece, and also started out his career in France with Valenciennes, and last season played 47 games for Besiktas, so he's not coming in cold. He's just had a full season playing for them. And of course, Besiktas are one of the top teams in Turkey. They finished 4th last season. The current manager is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who obviously used to be Manchester United manager, played for Manchester United himself, and I think only took that job this summer. So, in January he took the job. So, obviously ran in the rule over Masuaku, decided to go in a different direction, but not somebody I've seen loads of, but definitely a name I've heard of, Andrew. I'm presuming you've heard of him too. Like I said, a lot of experience playing the Premier League. Had 7 years with West Ham. Most of that was playing for David Moyes. We'll not hold that against him, by the way. When we're talking about adding experience, adding Premier League experience, I guess he ticks those boxes. He's free, so he hasn't cost us anything. I don't think he's coming in to take Ronaldo's place off him, but he will push the fullbacks we've already got. I don't see a lot of downside to this one. If he's no good, then it's not a big deal. We've not really signed him to come in as first choice, I don't think. But I think the experience in the Premier League is one of the big things that we do need in the squad, and he gives us that.
Exactly, yeah. You can't beat having a bit of Premier League know-how around the place. And like yourself, I recognise the name. I know he's at West Ham. It must have been 6 or 7 years. I think he had a pretty decent stint there. So yeah, he knows all about the Premier League. He's not going to have to acclimatise when he gets here. It might be a case that he's seen as a backup option, or maybe they've looked at Ronaldo and think they want him to play more centrally. Perhaps you don't know, and you perhaps won't know until we play against West Ham United, funnily enough, and see what the starting 11 is. But yeah, it seems pretty risk-free. It would appear as if it's happened quite quickly. So very little risk from our point of view. But if it means we get an experienced player in, happy days. And as well, I'm just looking at those clubs he's played for, Besiktas and what have you. He's obviously going to be able to perform in front of quite a high, quite a strong atmosphere. He's not going to come
hostile crowd.
Yes. Hopefully, when it's hostile, it's towards the away team. But yeah, he's not going to come to the stadium alight and be overawed by the occasion. He'll fit into that side of the club pretty quickly. And like you say, yeah, international experience. It might mean he disappears for a few weeks around New Year, but again, you want players in the squad who've got that under their belt and perhaps have a bit more experience to help the younger lads around them.
Yeah, and like I said, he's coming in on a free, and that you would presume he's not had much of a pre-season, or if any. He's if he's a good pro, he's probably been working with a one-to-one trainer, doing his own fitness stuff, so he could still be fit. And I imagine the club, before they agree to sign him, will make sure that he's not coming in 3 stone overweight and not bit of a problem from the off. So still though, that probably means he's not going to be ready to start the season, because he's going to be behind the rest of the squad. But I don't necessarily see that as a problem. As I said before, I think we do need a smattering of Premier League experience. And when you consider Dennis Serkin's injury record, which isn't great, he's injured at the minute. I think the last time it was mentioned, they were expecting him to be back available around the time of the September international break and just after. So if that's the case, then we do need number. And to be honest, the other thing with Serkin is that we still don't know what's going on with his contract. He's in his last year. We've been speculating over, maybe the club would look to cash in on him before his contract runs down, because we know that that's something the club will do. They will sell players before they lose any value on them, regardless how good they are. We did it with Danny Bath, we did it with Pritchard in the past to a lesser degree, but they were important players and we had no qualms about moving them on. So, it kind of does raise a question about that, doesn't it? The fact that we've brought in a free agent, but also have 2 left backs already. Kind of it does add a bit like the Dan Neil stuff, which we've debated endlessly on this pod over recent weeks, where we're signing midfielders and you go, well, he's not signed a contract yet, so what does that say about his future? This probably raises the same kind of questions around Dennis Cirkin, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's probably saying to Cirkin, look, if you do want to leave, we're not going to be short in that department. We've got 2 experienced left backs who have come in, so it's a good move from the club. And also, like you say, to Cirkin, I want Cirkin to stay. I think Cirkin's a phenomenal footballer when he's fit. But the problem we've got is he's very rarely fit. But I think the club would probably want to tie him down. But if he's wanting to lead us over a barrel, I'm just going to say, well, hang on, we've got this lad in now. He'll be back up to Ronaldo and that. So the ball's in your court, really. Either sign or don't, or we'll ship you out. As you said before, we've done it many a time now, where sometimes it's been not so much a popular thing to do to get rid of a good footballer, which we have done. But what they'll always think is the club is more important than any one player. So they've kind of covered all the races, really, that we're not going to be stuck without a left back. So fair enough. Apart from them 3 weeks in January when we're not going to have a team. But we'll see what happens with it. But I think, I agree with Andrew. I think it's a strong, solid signing. Lad who I don't expect him to be first choice left back. We're looking at now, 8 days before the season starts, and we're still looking for a centre half. We've kind of got someone in there who can come in and play a left back in case we are going to move someone into the centre half position. So for me, I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah, I'm just looking here now. Masuaku has actually been training in Belgium with Maluka Football, and they've posted pictures of him in training a couple of weeks ago on their social feeds. So I would expect that from any top professional, who's looking to get back in, that they would just keep themselves ticking over, whether that's with a club or not. So, but it's very different when you step back into a club environment, and you're around players who've had a full pre-season. He's not going to be playing against West Ham, his old club, on Saturday next week, is he? So, that's a given. But,
stranger things have happened. Stranger things.
Well,
I agree with you. I think you're right.
I'd be shocked. And I just want to go back to something I said before, which was that, he's actually played a lot of football recently. 47 games last season, pretty much all of them as a starter. Only missed out through suspension. It wasn't as though he was coming off the bench and being chucked on for the last 10, 15 minutes, Andrew, to show them up. So, that's got to be something, yeah. He's clearly still got something about him. I'm not getting overly excited about this one, but I think I said this a few weeks ago. We kind of need a couple of just unexciting signings, just lads who can just sit on your bench, occasionally fill in. If we get problems with Ronaldo or Cirkin at left back, we have somebody there. I would imagine we'll probably have a few more of this type of signing coming in. He won't be the last. I don't want to do the lad down, and I don't want to sound really disrespectful, but you don't get as hyped for this as you do when you sign in a player for 30 million. That's just a given, right? And that's not a bad thing. We can't just sign loads of 25, 30 million players, as much as I would like it, and I've said this over the years, because actually recruiting backup fullbacks has been a bit of a problem for us, because Cirkin and Hume have been so set in stone as they are the top men in them positions, that when you go out looking for a fullback, it's a bit difficult to go to somebody and go, well, you're not going to play ahead of him, but we do need someone to just come and sit on the bench and occasionally, give us an option. It's very difficult to do that in the Championship. I think it's a little bit easier when you get promoted. I think when you're a Premier League club, it's probably a little bit more straightforward to approach free agents like Masuaku and go, look, we've got Ronaldo. We don't know what's going on with Dennis Cirkin, but he's got injury problems in the last year of his deal. He has a 2-year contract. Push the players we've got. I'm sure the club aren't saying to him, by the way, you're never going to play. It'll be a case of, we want you to come here. We want you to really push the lads we've got already. So, but being realistic, Andrew, is he going to play much? Probably not. So it's a pretty safe acquisition, I think.
Yeah, he might not play too much. I don't want to say that for definite, because there's always that chance that something happens and he's an ever present. He doesn't not every signing we make needs to be a headline grabber. We're trying to build a group of players that can deal with different situations. Fullback is quite important in the modern game. And as you said, with Serkin, he does have long-term injury issues and what have you. What we don't want to do is, if Serkin is out or whoever our first choice fullback is out, we don't want to have to then fill that space with somebody who can't do the job. The team looks really unbalanced when you start having people out of possession at fullback. And the same goes with Hume. I don't like it on the odd occasion. Hume was unavailable. I don't like this idea of putting square pegs in round holes. So, yes, it's brilliant when we sign some young wonder kid and he's cost tens of millions of pounds and we can all get excited about that. But football, there's plenty of different aspects to football and building a squad. And presumably, we've had a bit of a look round and asked about his personality to make sure that he's not going to rock the boat if he's not playing. And is he the type of person who can contribute on the training ground and on the team bus as much as on the pitch? So, yeah, it's not one that sets the pulses racing as such, but that isn't meant to be a derogatory thing. It's come out of the blue. Gav, when you mentioned it to me there before hitting record, I hadn't even seen the news. So yeah, it has been sprung on us. But as with all of these discussions about who we sign, Gav, I think I sign all of them off by saying I can see why the club have done it. So Good luck to him. I hope he comes along and settles in and loves it here.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add is that I have this same approach every time we sign a player. It doesn't matter who they are. They come in with a clean slate, no preconceptions, nothing. Whether, West Ham fans think he's the best left back in the world or not, I don't care. I care about what he does for Sunderland, and my judgment of him starts the day he plays for us. Doesn't start based on what he did elsewhere. And sometimes that can be, I can be vindicated in that. I think I have been with several players. There's been other times I was even willing to give Danny Graham a chance when he came the second time around. You know what I mean? So it's not an infallible thought process, that, but still, he gets a clean slate, he gets a fresh start, he'll be eager to come here and play football, and that's all that matters. And I think Sunderland fans will give him that chance, because I think everyone's very clear in the knowledge that Ronaldo is clearly coming to be first choice. So it's not as though we've been scampering around all summer, haven't had a left back, and then this is what they've gone for: a free agent from Besiktas, 31-year-old, who's previously been a backup left back at West Ham. If that was the case, then you'd be going, what the hell are we doing? Why are we not putting some decent money in to get a top player in that position? We're already sorted at left back, really. This is just an added bonus, isn't it? So, I'm pretty happy with this one. Let's see how it progresses. I think, like I say, it's not the most glamorous signing in the world, but we can still sort of put a tick next to this one and say, there's another player added to the squad that we probably need.
And I'm just looking there, Gav, he scored a handful of Premier League goals. So I think we joked about it recently. I don't think there's many Premier League goals in our squad at the moment, so he goes straight to the top of the charts in that respect. Well, you never know. He might play up front for us.
He's not there for long. Otherwise, we're for a bad season.
I think he would automatically come in as the most capped, person with the most Premier League appearances, wouldn't he? I think we said previously Simon Adingra was the highest with 60. So,
there's Xhaka now though. So we're boosting all of these stats.
We're absolutely teeming with Premier League.
It's shaping up well, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed. Okay, so we will move on to look ahead to these games, which was supposed to be the point of this. It was supposed to be the point of yesterday's pod, and I never got round to it. So I'm going to make sure we definitely talk about these games. So this afternoon, as I said at the top, we're playing FC Augsburg in Germany. They finished 12th in the Bundesliga last season, managed by Sandro Wagner, which isn't a name I'm particularly familiar with. I don't know if any of you have ever heard him. Apparently played for Bayern Munich once upon a time. Previously the assistant manager of Germany. Yep, don't know much about the fella. They're not a team I know loads about, although I'm pretty sure that's who we sold G to back in the day. That one just comes to mind immediately. Andrew's nodding, so...
Yeah, he had a couple of loans there, and then I think we sold him to Borussia Dortmund, who probably sold him to Augsburg. So
right.
they saw a nice little profit in that one, I think.
I totally forgot he was at Dortmund. Jesus Christ. Anyways, they're not one of the big boys in the Bundesliga. I think that's fair to say. They've got a couple of players in the squad I've heard of. I mean, Steve Mooney's one of them. I think he was at Huddersfield for a few years. I mean, I'm just scrolling here now. Masengo, who was at Burnley last season, has just signed for them. So they've got a couple of lads in there who've played in England, but again, not a team I know a great deal about. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter what we know about Augsburg. This is just another exercise getting ready for the new season. I guess the big thing is, and I'm imagining when people hear this, we still won't really know 100% if this is the case. But all the checks I've done with local journalists this week to try and get this news is indicating that the team going to Germany is going to be the team that is probably going to start against West Ham, or at least I think 95% of the way Regis Lebris is confident that will be his team when we play West Ham. So for the fans travelling over, that's great. They get to see the strongest team that Lebris can put out at the minute. But it is interesting, isn't it? Because I can't remember. I don't know if you being the history buff on this call, Andrew, you might be able to tell us this. But have we ever rounded off a pre-season with 2 games in 2 days? Because I can't think we've ever done that.
It's not something I remember us ever doing. Yeah. It does seem a little unusual. And yeah, until we see either footage of the squad that sets off to Germany, or we get to see a lineup, I am quite intrigued as to how we're going to handle these two matches. It does seem a little bit peculiar. But having said that, from what I can gather, apparently Augsburg played on Friday and have an early game on Sunday. So if we think 2 games in 2 days is a tough schedule, they've got 3 in 3, so they're going to have it even harder than us. We might look a bit sharper come the final half hour. You never know.
But yeah, I mean, I've heard. I mean, we've all seen the rumor that it seemed a bit far fetched that post that was going around about Enzo Lefebvre being pissed off and all this, that, and the other. But my understanding is that he isn't part of the travelling squad to Germany, which again we'll find out later. But that doesn't mean anything. It just means he's not starting the game next week potentially, which is fine. We've got loads of players and they're all going to have the chance to play. It doesn't mean that Enzo Lefebvre wants to leave and he's been bombed out and all the rest of it. It's a friendly, you know what I mean? I still reckon, although I've said Regis Lebris will be 95% sure of his team next week, not accounting for injuries and things, and other players coming in too. Hopefully we'll sign a centre-half pretty soon. I would still imagine that for the players who are playing at the Stadium Light on Sunday in that game against Vallecano, that it's still an he's not ruling anybody out. You'll be saying to them, look, play your way into my thing, and if you have a good game today, you've got a great chance next week. So I certainly wouldn't be ruling any players out. But what do you think about the fact that we've kind of done this, that we've purposely decided to end off pre-season with 2 squads? I mean, it's unusual, and I can kind of see the merit in it, because it means that you're not only given 90 minutes to half of your squad, everyone's ready for next weekend. Everyone's got the same amount of minutes in their legs. I kind of get it, but the fact that they're sending the team over to Germany, that's what I believe anyways. We could be I could be proven to be a liar later, but we believe the team's going over there to Germany. That's probably going to start next week. I think that's unusual. I would have preferred the stronger team to play at the stadium, because the first game's at the stadium. But I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. The only thing I've probably got again was, I'm not sure if I would have played you start 11 6 days before the season starts. But I mean, it's only 8 days before the season starts now, so it doesn't really matter. If someone picks up a knock, you're not going to get an extra 2 days to recover, are you? It's probably just pick up a knock, you're going to be out of next week anyway. So it is weird. I can't remember. I mean, you mentioned before, and I can't remember us ever having a pre-season where we've ended with 2 games in 3 days, and I've been watching them for the end of 30 odd years. So it's something that is strange, but I kind of get the idea of it. I think it's a good idea in principle that you've got the 2 squads. He's obviously saying, well, you're my first 11, you're my second 11, but you go out on Sunday and you put a performance in, you might get yourself into the first team. And I can understand, the whole Enzo stuff, that if he's not happy to sat in the other, but I can't get that. I really don't sit on that fence at all, because there's no way that Regis has brought this lad in January to get us into the Premier League and then bomb him off in the Premier League. It's absolutely not.
It's not his style, especially with a player who he's very close to.
Exactly.
The whole reason he came to Sunderland was because of Regis.
Because of him, wasn't it? Yeah.
Look, I think that if Lefebvre has been told you're not going to be part of the squad that goes to Germany, that means you're potentially not playing next week. I'd be amazed if he wasn't pissed off. I want them all to be pissed off when they're not playing. I want all players to think, I want to play next week. You want hungry players who really want to play for Sunderland. So, I would be surprised if he isn't ticked off. That would just be strange.
I think the club have kind of said as well regarding Sunday that when the lad from Chelsea came, is it Guiu, isn't it? However you pronounce it.
I've had enough practice on this week. It's Guiu.
They said they basically said come and see your new signing on Sunday, didn't they? So it looks like he's going to be in that team. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the only indication we've got of who's going where. So for at least for fans who are going on Sunday, you're not going to see just the reserves. It is going to be a mixture. You would imagine Dan Neil, Paddy Roberts, and all that. They're going to be playing, so it's not just going to be, some young'uns. It's going to be still a half decent side. So, and obviously if Enzo's not there today, he's obviously going to be playing on Sunday. So I think it's still a good test for both of them there. And it gives Regis a chance to say, well, he's knocking on the door. He's been knocking on my door in training that he hasn't been playing that many games. Let's see what he can do at home in front of the Stadium of Light. And for me as well, you've got to remember that this is going to be a long, hard season, long, hard slog where we're going to get injuries, we're going to get suspensions and that, and we need everybody to be match fit as and when available. We've also got the League Cup, we've got obviously the FA Cups and stuff like that, where these lads are going to get a chance. So for me, it's a no-brainer.
Were you going to say something there, Andrew? I saw you keen to talk, mate.
Yeah, well, Ant's made the point about Marc Guiu is being suggested will play on the Sunday. For all we know, Sunday might be a slightly second-string team starting, but you're not going to learn anything if it's Guiu and 10 reserves. Maybe Lebris wants Lefebvre playing for that reason. Maybe he wants to see how Lefebvre can operate with that type of forward in front of him. It sounds like I'm clutching at straws, but there could be any number of reasons that would be more plausible than, like you say, ditching his star player. We don't know what the travel arrangements are for Germany either. Is the squad flying in and out on the same day, or what? There's any number of reasons why Lefebvre might not be going to Germany. He's an experienced player now and isn't going to learn anything by being whisked off to Germany to play in a match. He's got nothing to prove. I do think that's somebody just making a bit of mischief, if we're honest.
Probably. I've tried to lay out the squads myself to try and work out how the teams might be split based on what I understand. I mean, you can interchange the two team names here. One's going to be stronger than the other, clearly, because next week we play in the Premier League. So this was the team I came up with. Whether it's right or not, I don't know. I've got Rolfs in goal, Hume at right back, Ballard at centre half, obviously. The other centre half, I'm still not sure. If Sealt's fit, it'll be him, and Ronaldo at left back. But I was thinking if Sealt isn't fit and Triantis isn't fit, which they haven't been for the last couple of games, we saw Ronaldo at centre half last week, but when the changes were made, it was Hume who went centre half, And I've got a feeling it would possibly be Ronaldo, Ballard, Hume and Huggins, if that was the case. So you've got that potentially. But let's just go on the premise that Sealt and Triantis might be fit. So Hume, Ballard, Sealt, Ronaldo, midfield three. Originally I put Lafayette down until all this stuff came out, but I've got Siddiqui, Xhaka and Diarra as the midfield three. And then a front three of Talbi, Mayenda, Adingra. So that would then leave us with the second team being Moore in goal, probably, over Blondie, because Patterson's not fit. So it'll be Moore in goal. Niall Huggins playing right back. Triantis probably with Zach Johnson at centre-half, because, again, we don't have any other central defenders. One of Harrison or Jensen-Jones at left-back. I would probably say Harrison, given that he's actually had a 90 minutes now playing left-back, so...
he's actually had a good pre-season, Harrison Jones, to be fair to him at left-back. He's done all right, hasn't he?
I thought he struggled a bit last week, but he did okay. He was all right. Then the midfield three would be some combination. Again, as well, by the way, just to throw this little bone in there, Alan Brown can play right back, so there's that as well, if we needed to. But midfield three of Enzo Lafay, Dan Neil, and one of Rigg or Brown. I mean, Rigg, we were told they were hoping to get him back for this game, but I don't know. So one of Rigg or Brown, then a front three, and again, this one, you could probably change about a bit, but Patrick Roberts, Wilson Isidore, Milan Alexic. Obviously, we've got Marc Guiu, who I didn't mention there. One of Rigg or Brown could potentially miss out, but still, even then, you could move that around. You could have a front three of Roberts, Guiu, and Isidore, and Alexic maybe doesn't start the game. So, other than defence, I think we're pretty well stacked, because that's two completely different teams. Obviously, we're guessing. I'm guessing. We don't know who's travelled. We don't know whether the club are going to, send a load of first teamers to Germany, fly them all back, and then have them on the bench over there, and then fly them back and start on the next day. We don't know, but that would be my guess. I don't know what you two think, but I'm pretty confident that would be the case. The only question mark we've really got is who plays centre half for Ballard, because we don't know in terms of fitness who's available. Otherwise, that team pretty much picks itself. Andrew, I don't know what you think.
I like the way you've set it out there, Gav. Yeah, it makes you realise that particularly further up the pitch, there are a few options, and there are players who are going to want to catch. By the way,
I didn't even mention Abdullahi. There's another one.
Mm-hmm. Aye, or Isidore, or is Isidore injured now? I can't.
I mentioned Isidore because the only reason I think they were targeting the games this weekend to get him back, but let's see.
But yeah, Abdullahi is a good shout. There are options there, and again, this is something we've said a lot as we've been speaking over the summer, Gav. There will be a reason why we've got two games this weekend. Maybe the club want to look at conditioning or recovery or whatever. The club haven't just decided to stick a couple of games in the diary for a bit of a laugh. There will be a reason, and there'll be a desired outcome from all of this. And yes, it might be that they want to see, is a player able to be on the bench one day, fly, and then turn up the following day and do a half-decent job, because you don't know what's going to happen this season. We're not going to be playing two games next to each other in quick succession, but there will be times when players last minute have to get drafted into the squad, and you need to be confident that they are sharp and able to do a job. But you like I say, Gav, I like the way you've kind of set that out. It does make you realise that we do have a few options, and if in defence we have to play a couple of kids, well, all that means is those kids will have to see that as an opportunity to put themselves in the picture for a substitute's place come the start of the real stuff.
Yeah, the way I laid that out there, and who we've obviously mentioned Lafay, but in that second team, which could potentially play in the game on Sunday, who do you think is most likely to push to get in the team for the weekend after?
Wow. Probably Wilson Isidore, to be honest. You look at the two lads out wide in Talbi and Adringa haven't exactly set the world on fire other than pre-season yet. Talby's been a bit of a slow burn. I thought he played really well against Hull before he went off the knee, and then Adringer, I think, I thought last week he thought the game passed him by a little bit. So if he can put a good performance on Sunday, and obviously we haven't seen much of Wilson at all, have we, in pre-season? He's been carrying a knock. But either or him or Roberts are wide. I think if they put a really good performance in, I think that's still wide open, to be honest. I think my end is pretty much nailed down for starting the season. And Enzo, it depends on which way we want to play. I think that's what will end up being with Enzo Lafayette this year. It depends how we want to set out. We want to start attacking games in the midfield three. He'd be there. If not, we want to sit back and catch things on the break. I would imagine it's the three that's going to be. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, for me, and I've answered that a very short question, long ride, but probably Wilson or Roberts, I would say them too.
Roberts for me is the one I'm thinking, because I like Patrick Roberts. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really like Patrick Roberts, and I think the indication if you can take anything from pre-season so far, clearly Talby is fancied more, and we've paid a lot of money for the lad, so you can understand it. But I wouldn't mind seeing Roberts surrounded by better players, just how he fares, with some of them midfielders that we've got now, working in tandem with Roberts. The best football we've seen out of Patrick Roberts was when he had Ahmad. We all know it. And it was because he had somebody on his wavelength, and we'll get the chance, I'm sure, over the season to see it, but I wouldn't be adverse to seeing Roberts start that first game of the season. But yeah, so I'm hoping that what we do is we put out a team on Saturday. If it is, as I believe, going to be the stronger side, or at least, sorry, not the stronger side, that probably is a little bit disrespectful to some of the other players, the fancied team for the West Ham game, which tactically, the manager picks a team based tactically on what he thinks, is going to happen, and the other players kind of just have to swallow that and get on with it, But let's just say he picks that team, the team on the Sunday go out and they have a stormer and they play really well. That's what you want. You want the manager to have headaches, don't you? So I've got absolutely no problem with splitting the team. I think obviously you can see why we've done it. It's to keep everybody sharp. And look, we've got a game next week, so he's got to try and form some partnerships. I think we've talked about it on the pod this week about how there's maybe just not that cohesion there yet because some of these lads don't know each other. I've mentioned this again a few times. Rofs came out after the game and said, I don't even know their names. I've had one training session, so he probably knows who Granit Xhaka is, and that's about it. But let's just see what happens. I wouldn't be getting carried away based on what we see. Yes, there's going to be one team stronger than the other. It doesn't mean that all them other players are in the bomb squad and they've been written off. I can't see that being the case. We've just, this is probably just a smart move from the club to make sure that we've got 20-odd players ready to play against West Ham, Andrew.
Yeah, exactly. Because we need 20-odd players because we name a starting 11, Gav, but we also have a really big bench now. And any one of those players could come on in a game. Ant's dead right. Something you were saying earlier about how you might have different formations, different players and tactics depending on the opposition. But that can change in a game as well. West Ham, like most teams in the Premier League, are flexible and they're going to change their plans during a match. So we need to have options on the bench to react to that if needs be. I'm happy with all of this. And something that's just cropped up there, I don't know if either you remember this, gents, but when Roy Keane was in charge, we had a friendly at Nottingham Forest. And I'm sure for the last 15, 20 minutes, he just brought one of the defenders off and didn't bring anybody else on. And his explanation afterwards was he wanted the team on the pitch to know how to cope with going down to 10 men.
That's one way to do it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so there might be some thinking. Say in one of these games we have an inexperienced back four playing. Well, rather than whinge about it and see it as a bad thing, can the players in the midfield learn how to deal with that so that if in a Premier League game we're suddenly struggling for numbers and we've got a couple of inexperienced players, do the ones in front of them know how to step up and cover for that and deal with that?
I think it's going to be better over 90 minutes for them as well when like they brought them to be that raft of subs against Hull. And you could tell immediately that a few of them did struggle to get into the game, didn't they? Whereas, and we played a Hull who hadn't made any subs up until then. So that it was still like Hull's first team against our, literally was just everyone clubbed together, wasn't it? So I think in 90 minutes of people who are in the right positions against a good side, I think it's good. It's going to bring them on brilliantly. So yeah, I think it's a smart move by them. And listen, they know what to do. We've questioned them for the last 2 or 3 years or whatever. These people know what they're doing. So I think it's going to be absolutely fine.
Cue 2 massive defeats and everybody's absolutely devastated.
Oh, I couldn't care less, mate. I really couldn't. I'll start caring literally 1,500 on Saturday next week. That's when people need to start focusing on performance and results. This is literally just get minutes in legs and get everyone, as Gav said before, get everyone working as a team. Because that's what we need to do. That's the main thing now, is to start getting a team and a little bit of relationships formed on and off the pitch, really, because that's going to matter the most when we are going on runs where we see we haven't won 4 in a row. It's the mindset of these players to trust each other to get us out the hole, really.
Yeah. For all the Briss is bothered, these games could just be played behind closed doors. The results make such little difference to his plans. And as you said, Ant, it's all geared up to that first game against West Ham and then Burnley and Brentford and all the other fixtures. The scoreline is so low down the priority list for this weekend. I just like that idea about how we're all trying to say, oh, it's clever. The club have pulled a masterstroke here. I might change my mind on Sunday afternoon when I'm walking away from the stadium. I might throw all that out the window and start complaining.
You made this point before, Andrew, about the fact Augsburg are splitting the teams across the weekend and stuff. I'm just looking that they've done that right through pre-season. They played the 18th and 19th of July, 2 separate games. They played 2 games against Essen. Must have been 2 separate squads on the 25th of July. 2 squads against Palace on the 1st of August. So they've basically done that right the way through pre-season. They've basically just organised games back to back, which, it must just be the way now. Teams just think, well, because if you just pick the same team all the way through pre-season, then there's a whole other bunch of players there who aren't getting the same minutes in their legs, and you might need them players. So, I've got our approach doesn't look as wacky when I look at the fact they've done that right through pre-season. But just quickly moving along as well, because we've not really mentioned them, but the Vallecano game on Sunday, Rayo Vallecano are a team again I don't know loads about. They've obviously they're coming across to play us, having just played West Brom last weekend. They lost 3-2 to West Brom at the Hawthorns. Prior to that, weekend before, they battered Peks Vola 5-0, and the week before that, drew 1-1 with Genk. But it's fair to say we've played stronger opposition than this in pre-season. Both games. We've played stronger teams than Augsburg and Rayo Vallecano already. But, we've talked about this loads. We've played teams who are ahead of us in terms of their fitness, which has been beneficial because whilst we maybe haven't played particularly well, we're putting ourselves up against a team who's, for all intents and purposes, fitter, stronger, a little bit more sharper than we are. And that's, can only be a good thing for our fitness. With these games, we're playing teams who are probably at the same stage of pre-season. So this should be quite interesting, to see where we're at. And I'm not going to chuck the toys out the pram if we don't win both games, but I do want to see some goals. That would be nice just to tee us up nicely for that West Ham game. I'm excited to see Marc Guiu play. It looks like he's going to be involved at some stage in that game on Sunday, so that'll be nice just to see another new face. Hopefully see a few lads back. I mean, we've not seen Chris Rigg at all in pre-season. Wilson Isidore hasn't played, I don't think, since we were in Portugal. I think he played against Sevilla, didn't he? And then he hasn't been seen since. So look, there's lots to going to come out of this. We're going to be a lot more well-versed in what the crack is after this weekend, aren't we? I think we're going to have a pretty strong idea of what the team will be against West Ham. It's a shame we don't have a centre-half through the door yet. I was kind of hoping we'd have one by now for these games. there's obviously a reason for that. I'm pretty sure as Tom White said on the pod the other day, I'm sure they haven't just kind of sat around with their feet up on the table thinking, oh shit, we need a centre half, quickly sort it out. I'm sure they're well aware that we need a centre half, but we don't have one at the minute, so we've got what we've got. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. So you're looking forward to going to the games on Sunday, aren't you? So presume you're looking forward to just, getting back to the stadium again, seeing the lads. It's not quite the same as a full throttle Premier League game where we're going to have 48,000 people in the ground, but it's still nice to get to the stadium, isn't it, and see the lads play.
Oh, aye. Well, that's it's going to be my first time since the Dan Ballard header, you know what I mean? So from that, euphoria to go back, I'm sure it'll be a little bit emotional. But because I missed the best games, I was down watching Oasis, so, I was good to miss it, to be honest, but, I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward just to seeing them again, you know what I mean? Just because you kind of get the feeling that the football's back now, you know what I mean? I'm just looking forward to getting watching them and all that, and I couldn't care less what the result is on Sunday, mate. I've got to be honest. Just want to watch football, mate. That's all it's about.
Yeah, and then obviously, after this, Andrew, once we take what we take out of this, all the hype's going to be going towards that game next weekend, isn't it? So this is kind of the final chance to get minutes in the legs, try and work out some of the, remove some of the kinks, I guess, that have been there in pre-season. Because there's been a few moments where we've some slack passing around the back, we've given away goals and things. You don't want to be doing that in the Premier League. So it's our last chance to kind of iron those creases out and get ourselves ready for the West Ham game.
It's going to feel like a long week, Gav.
Yeah.
Because we've had quite a busy pre-season when you consider.
We have.
It seems to me as if every couple of days has been another match to look forward to. So yeah, that is going to be that week's going to drag. I think everybody's looking forward to West Ham. It's a sellout. It's going to be a really good atmosphere. But yeah, I can envisage myself on Monday night, Tuesday night, just twiddling my thumbs, thinking, we could do with this this week being over with and actually getting stuck into West Ham. One thing I just wanted to mention, Gav, and this is me being ultra boring and adds nothing to the pod. Augsburg, you said they played Essen a couple of times.
Yeah.
Essen is Sunderland's twin town. So
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Augsburg have some, I don't know, quite fond of us in Essen and want to join the big Wearside family and make some new friends. Whereas Vallecano have been very rude and haven't taken on any of Sunderland's twin town teams. So I'm going to be sure to remind them of that on Sunday and tell them they've disgusted us with their lack of cordiality.
They could have went and played Santa's Air, couldn't they, for us?
Well, exactly. If they wanted to be nice about this and make Sunday an enjoyable affair, that's what they should have done. Absolute disgrace.
Well, so we've got these two games this weekend. I'm going to try and get some reaction pods done after the game so we can talk about what we've seen. A lot of guesswork today, but I quite like that. I quite like the fact we're sitting guessing about what the teams are going to be, what the tactics are going to be. How's Regis Labrousse approaching it? What does it say about certain players and their status in the team? All these things would be nice. So, and the fact we're signing another player, of course. I mean, they've certainly kept us busy with transfers this summer, and I'm hoping that's the case. I mean, Fabrizio Romano, in his tweet about Masuaku, kind of said, we're not finished with the transfers. So let's see where we go from here. I'm hoping a couple of centre-halves are coming next, so I am getting a little bit fiddly about that. I would like to see us sign one in the next few days. So let's see what happens. Anyways, like I say, we'll be back with a pod after the game on Saturday and the game on Sunday, so make sure you catch up with those. We'll fill you in on everything that happened and give you our thoughts on the games. Just leaving to say thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great to catch up with you both.
Lovely. Cheers, gents.
Yeah, and thanks to listeners. Thank you very much for listening every single day as you do. Listening figures are going through the roof. People can't get enough of Howie the podcast. I'm hoping the steady incline of listens carries on, and when we sort of lose a few games, it doesn't tail off the other end. We'll see. As I've plugged a few times this week, we do have a new website. It's still the same address at rotoreport.espionation.com, but it does look a little bit different, so check that out for us. There's been loads of pods this week, so make sure you catch up with anything you've missed. Loads of really good interviews and stuff which haven't dated at all. So make sure you grab those. And like I say, whenever there's transfer stuff to talk about, we will talk about it. So we'll be back every single day with a pod over the coming weeks and months. So we'll catch you on the next one. We'll see you later.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.